All right, back again. 1 Kings part 6. Adam. When we look at the word Adam, in Hebrew it would be the Aleph, the Dalet, and the Mem Sophi. Zerah would be the Resh and the Aleph. Seed, Zerah seed, this is the same. Then we have the word blood. The word blood is dam, as in Adam. The person or the entity that actually gave man life was the Aleph. Giving you the complete word Adam. The genetic, again, marker that the Father gave Adam to make him a conscious being now was the Aleph Tav symbol. Again, when you go to Genesis, the first chapter, again, we had the word, remember, Yetzar. This is that genetic marker. So when we begin to look at now Noah being perfect in his generation, it doesn't only mean his mannerism and his walk. It's also talking about his genes, his genetics. There was nothing wrong with Adam. So genetics is going to be very important, and we're going to show that in Scripture. We're going to show it. We're going to show it. Okay. We was at Genesis, the 10th chapter. Chapter, we was at verse 15. No, that's not the one. We was in Bereshit, the 6th chapter, excuse me. Genesis, the 6th chapter, we was at verse 9. Again, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man or a righteous man, and he was perfect in his generation, and Noah walked with Elohim. Now, Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. That's very important. And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was also corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. So when we begin to read verse 1 down to verse 9, the ones that actually now created all of this havoc on the earth were the sons of Elohim, right? And they taught the people witchcraft, wickedry, all type of wickedness that they taught man. Now, the earth was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence, and Elohim looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. For all flesh had corrupted his ways upon the earth, except for Noah. And Elohim said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. We need to identify who is the them. And behold, I would destroy them with the earth. So he goes on and talks about how he's going to make the ark. Verse 18. Now, but with Noah will I establish my covenant. Again, but with Noah will I establish my covenant. And thou shalt come into the ark, your sons and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. What I found interesting with this here is that Noah was righteous. His genes were perfect. In order for there to be seed, you would need a woman. 23 chromosomes, like we always talk about, is coming from the woman, 23 from the man. So we have 46 chromosomes. Them coming together is going to produce 3 perfect children, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. What comes questionable are the wives of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. It becomes questionable. Deuteronomy 5 and 9. Deuteronomy 5 and 9. Watch how this plays out. Deuteronomy 5 and 9. Let me just go here first. We're talking about chromosomes here. 26 for the man, 26 for the woman, giving us now, every human has 46 chromosomes, or Homo sapiens here. 46 chromosomes is mankind. 47 chromosomes is Down syndrome. 48 chromosomes is a chimpanzee. Look how closely related all of this is. We're talking about genetics from the beginning all the way to the end. We're talking about a perfect generation. When the Father created Adam and Eve, they were perfect. All right, they were perfect. After the fall, we have problems. 46 chromosomes, mankind, Homo sapien. 47 chromosomes, we have a problem. Mishrakar, here we go. Not everybody is compatible. Genetic-wise, everybody is not compatible. If, again, this is not personal. If there's a Down syndrome baby, we need to ask questions. What happened? This is not normal. It's abnormal. And then we have a close resemblance with the chromosomes of 2 extra chromosomes. But these 2 extra chromosomes, the distance between 46 chromosomes and 48 chromosomes are millions and millions, okay, miles apart. Now, what is this genetic marker? Right? What is this genetic marker? People say there was a reggae song called out back in the day, we're all one blood. One blood. Remember the song One Blood? Yeah, that's not true. No, we're not all one blood. We're all different. All right? These are your blood groups. You have A, B, AB, and you have O. Everybody falls in that type. Now, we have another problem. Okay. The blood is very, very important because if a person needed a kidney transplant or a heart transplant, if we were all one blood, why do they need to now check your blood to make sure that you're compatible? Everybody's not compatible. Not everybody has the same blood type. So with this now, you have A negative, A positive. B negative, B positive. A B negative, A B positive. O positive, O negative. All right? Now, then we have another problem. There's always problems, right? We have what we call the RH factor. Right? That's a big issue. RH factor. When you begin to look at 48 chromosomes, we talked about this was a chimp, right? If a person was RH positive, that means now on your blood, you have a protein on your blood that makes you RH, the RH factor. And a person who is RH negative don't have this protein on the blood. That is so important is because if a woman was RH negative and the person who she was with was RH positive, meaning this, if the baby now that's inside of her womb is RH positive, this baby has this protein on the gene. The first time when a woman gets pregnant, there's not going to be a problem. But the second time she gets pregnant, because the woman's body, she identifies this as a problem. But she's going to let it go the first time. But when she gets pregnant again, that's going to be a problem. Where if the blood of the mother comes in contact with the baby, let me read some of this here. And every woman knows this here that's had children. If the mother is RH negative and the baby is RH positive, it's called the rhesus I think this is what right now. The rhesus factor is what they call it actually. If that baby the rhesus factor is positive, the mother's body is going to produce these antigens now. It is going to look at this baby as a foreign object, and it will actually now send off information through her genes to actually destroy or kill the baby. That's exactly. Okay, a miscarriage. Exactly. That's the better term. Miscarriage. It would be a miscarriage. So everybody's not compatible. What they've done now is that in order to stop this from happening, the woman would have to take what you call a Rogam shot. What that Rogam shot does now is that it actually now lowers the mother's immune system where it won't look at this this rhesus positive factor baby as an actual enemy. And what happens now is that her body can actually go the full term. But what I found interesting here now, again, is that in the beginning, we didn't have such problems. So when we begin to look at now Nephilims, and these beings now actually going into women, and we see these people like the Anakians, they said that these people were as tall as cedar trees. Cedar trees. And so when we begin to see now issues and problems with genetics, when people are now growing at such a height, and we see that the Father is saying, listen, you know what? All these people must be destroyed. Must be destroyed. Because they will cause a problem even with your genetics. Okay, let's go to some scripture to show some of this as what I'm talking about here. Let's go through some scripture here. I found it interesting. Let's do it this way. Let's freestyle a little bit. Cain. I don't know this to be a fact, but I know that the scripture says it this way, that a mark was placed upon Cain. Right? The mark was placed upon Cain. Whenever the Father places a mark on you, it now differentiates you now from other people. So now we have a situation where what now happens now with this bloodline? The bloodline becomes a problem. And to prove this is that when we see, for example, the Mashiyach, we see now that the curse being put on the line of Janikin. Everybody knows the curse that was put upon the house of David? And no? Okay. We're going to have to go through that. Remember it said a king should not sit upon the throne of David, the whole thing with Ahab, and the punishment that was given to Ahab, and not to marry any of his daughters, to utterly destroy his whole family. And we see now southern kingdom now marrying one of the daughters of Janikin. Once this bloodline here is cursed, what we need to do now is to reestablish the bloodline. Because we talked about scriptures where the father said, listen, you know what? I'm going to establish the house of the seed of David forever. Forever. Let's go to the book of Genesis 3:15. Genesis, Bereshit. Anybody have any questions so far?
All right, I was just thinking when you brought out that Cain, again, I think in one of the scriptures, he made a separation between, I think when he was talking about Ham and Cain, in Genesis he said, and Cain, he didn't make a separation at the end of the scripture between the two. He's talking about Noah's son. And he said Cain is, he's put a separate, I was trying to find the scripture, he put a separation completely and said he's a Cain.
Right, I believe that's in Genesis, maybe, it might be the 9th chapter. That's when it talks about Cain, no, actually Ham uncovering his, Cain actually uncovered Abraham's nakedness.
Right.
Is that the one?
I think so. He called out.
Right, because he makes mention of, he talks about Ham, but what's interesting now is that it talks about the punishment now being placed not upon Ham, but upon the 4th generation, or the 4th son, and the 4th son was actually Cain. And so, what I found interesting is that it doesn't go into scripture. I mean, no, do you have the book of Joshua? Anybody have the book of Joshua? I think it's 4:18. Because when we start to talk about manipulating the seed bloodline, I know a lot that might be kind of like hard for people to actually see this. Not saying anybody here, but if you can read for me the book of Joshua, the 4th chapter, verse 18, you have it? Okay, please.
Yashra'al chapter 4, verse 18. And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men and took their women by force from their men according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixture of animals of one species.
The mixture of animals with one species.
With the other. In order therewith to provoke Yahuah. And Elohim saw the whole earth, and it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth, all men and all animals.
Hallelujah. So, with that now, we see now where these men of old taught the men how to manipulate genetics in the seed. So we talked about the animals, and we see this a lot of today, where we see a lot of animals that are not natural. Okay, they just wasn't born that way. But this comes about now with the mixing of seeds. Anybody ever seen a libra before? A libra, yeah. And so this animal has a mannerism that is different from a tiger and a lion. But they got these two animals together, and they crossbred the genes or the genetics here, and they have what they call a libra. But it said it has a type of mannerism where it's like kind of quiet and stays off to itself, but it's not as aggressive as either a tiger or a lion. But this thing is so big, his head will probably only be able to make it through that door. That's how big his head is. And they showed one where they stood it up on his hind legs. When this thing stood up, and on his hind legs, it was over 12 feet tall. 12 feet tall. They also showed, I forgot to bring the book in, they showed where they mixed a horse with a zebra. They showed where they mixed a hyena with a jackal. All these things that they showed. And even with some of the so-called domesticated animals that we have, like my sister, she has a dog, and she ordered this dog from overseas. And this dog ran her a couple of $1,000s. But this dog is about as big as maybe this tablet. All right, and she keeps this dog in her pocketbook. All right, but again, this dog is not a natural dog. This dog came about through crossbreeding of other animals, other dogs. There's a dog, the biggest dog I've ever seen, maybe Moray or Zakane, Rob Zakane, you can elaborate more on this about the crossbreeding of genetics. I think the dog's called a misfit, a mosfit or something. A mos. Mass, right. The one that I saw, this dog was about as tall as I was.
Right.
Huh?
The one, I think I showed it to you when it looked like if it was like a bear.
Yeah, this one was huge.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, he was huge. But again, these animals here, when we begin to look at how these things come about, we can find all these things in Scripture. For example, I'm going to go back to this right here. There are how many letters in the Hebrew alphabet? It's 22. We see now that they say that there's another Hebrew alphabet, which will now give us 23, which is the same number of the amount of but the amount of chromosome, one part or pair or chromosome that it needs to make to bring forth life into the earth. Right. And that one looks like this. Okay, it looks like a human genome is what it looks like. And this letter produces the guttural sound. It makes that sound, it's a guttural sound. And they say that, again, this is the 23rd alphabet. And with this side of the 46 chromosomes that we have, they're not able to decipher all of the chromosomes. They said some of the chromosomes they're calling like junk genes. They don't know what it's for, just like the appendix, just like the tonsils. But we know that the tonsils are needed, but they say that they really don't know what the tonsils are for. But when we begin to look at the Hebrew alphabet, we know that the Hebrew alphabet, just like Sister Shoshana was saying, that there's a guy that she knows down in Virginia that's able to say the Father's prayer. But he says the Father's prayer in a different way. The way that we speak now, we speak according to the way that our slave masters have taught us to speak. But when we used to speak before, we spoke in tones. So each Hebrew alphabet now carried a certain type of sound or vibration. And so to make that sound of that vibration now, we would actually need to know how to speak from our diaphragm. Okay? And the tonsils are very important. And to show the importance of this, remember Teddy Pendergrass. Teddy Pendergrass can sing like nobody's business. But he lost certain aspects or degrees of his singing when he became paralyzed, when he could only sit in the chair. So being that he was paralyzed from the waist down, he wasn't able to now bring out the tones and the rhythm the way that he used to when he had his abdominal muscles. So when you begin to speak now and utilizing the tonsils, it actually helps you now to bring out tones. Just the way that Moray and Brother Frank here, when they're playing the organ or the piano, each key now produces a sound and a tone. So when the nation of Yashra'al now marched around Jericho and the walls fell, it's just not, they said, let's say for example, they said all praises to Yahuah. It was a certain sound and a certain vibration, okay, that actually brought the walls down.
That's just like there's women that can hit certain tones and it can break glass.
Exactly. Okay, exactly. Perfect. Exactly. Oh, need some. Yeah, I bring that back. So again, tones and rhythms, we have some tenors, baritones. What are some of the other ones? Tenors, baritones.
Soprano.
Exactly. So watch how interesting this gets. Is when the Levites got together, the singers, and they would actually do the songs. They didn't just get people that can just sing. Each person needed to bring forth or show forth a tone. Just like when blowing the shofar. When you blow the shofar a certain amount of times, it means something. And so, again, even the tones and the rhythm or the sound that's coming from the shofar is going to be very important. So, we talked about the situation with Ham, right? Ham. Did you find that scripture where it talks about what, I get it. We talked about Ham, and we talked about Canaan.
He just made a separation, and he said, Ham.
I think that's in, he saw his father's nakedness. I think that's the 9th chapter. Let's go to it real quick. Genesis. Okay, what we're going to have to do is actually put the rest, this latter part, maybe, this won't go on TV, but on YouTube.
That's verse 23.
It's 9:23?
It's 23.
9:23. Oh, okay. 9:23. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it. Let's start up a little bit earlier. Verse 19, 9:19. These are the 3 sons of Noah, and of them who was the whole earth overspread. And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, which is his Esau, right? Every man has his own nakedness, and that's his Esau, his wife. And Ham the father came and saw the nakedness of his father and told his 2 brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon their shoulders and went backwards and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backwards, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall be unto his brethren. So we just found it very interesting now is that Canaan did the crime, but we have the 4th generation, Canaan, being punished. The 4th generation, that is in the book of is it Deuteronomy, the 19th chapter, is it? We're going to talk about that 4th generation. Let's see how I find it right quick into the 4th generation. One second, Mr. Hart. 1 second. Numbers 14, 18. 14, 18. It says, Yahuah is long-suffering and of great mercy, forgiving iniquities and transgression, and by no means clearing the guilt, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children into the third and fourth generation. Ham is the fourth generation. Excuse me, Canaan is the fourth generation. Ham committed the act. We see this now happening now with the fourth generation of Canaan. Now, this is the thing that was asked. It's all about, are you saying that those that are RH positive are from monkeys? Because some of us might be RH positive. No, I'm not saying that you're a monkey. I'm not saying that if you have that protein on your blood that you're a monkey. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm getting at is that there once existed a pure bloodline. And to show how important this is now is that once that curse was put upon the seed of David, we have something very important. Oh, Genesis 3:16, that's what it was. We almost done. Genesis 3:16. Can somebody get that for me? We're almost done, about 5 minutes. Genesis 3:16.
To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your deception, and sorrow should bring out children, and your desire should be for your husband, and he shall rule over you.
Yeah, what else we got there? Read on.
And Adam, he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten up the tree which I command you, saying, you should not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake. And his sorrow.
That's 3:15? That's 3:15?
That's 17 now. That was 15. Genesis 3.
Oh, excuse me, I meant to say Genesis 3:15 is what I meant to say. 3:15.
Genesis 3:15. I will put intimacy between you and the woman, and between your seed and her Yashra'al. He shall crush your head, and you shall be blazing at his heels. Right.
So we're talking about there's going to be two seeds. The woman's seed and Nakash, or Hashatan's seed. Two seeds. This is going to be the seed of righteousness. And this is going to be the seed of the disagreeable ones. Now, we see this prophecy coming to play here. This woman that we're talking about, we can look at it a couple different ways. This woman is actually Yashra'al, and this woman is actually Mary. We see now that Mary was of the bloodline of who? Who? David. Right? David's bloodline. Now, we had talked about this before, and again, I was real sensitive with the situation because I didn't want to, again, make anybody feel uncomfortable. But we had talked about so many times when we talked about her seed, and the importance of Mary is that Mary never had relations with a man before. So we talked about an Alma, we talked about an Arah, we talked about a Betula, and what was the other one? Narah, Alma, Betula. There was one more that we talked about. But anyway, but the point here now is that when this woman was a virgin, the Alma we talked about, I write it down, Betula, the Na'arah, there's another one. I can't think of it right now. But all of these here means virgin. A woman that has never known man before. Now, the Mashiyach is going to come through now a vessel where no man has ever been. Okay? A woman never had intercourse before. And the reason why is because, again, when we talk about blood and genetics, every man has his own blood, his own genetics. Now, And this is the reason why we're very strict with our sisters, especially our sisters, because our sisters, they receive, they're receivers. That's where we get the word Nekiba from in the book of Genesis, the second chapter. The word Nekiba means that she receives. And when our women are looking for men, we always ask our women to be very particular with the men who they deal with. Because being that seed is very important, seed carries vibrations and energy. If you're having relations with a man and that man hates you and he has problems with you, because every time a man releases now, he has his emission, he's having relations with the woman, a healthy male produces, or he releases over 50 million, sperm cells. A healthy man. That's a lot. So if this man has problems or he hates this Isha, he doesn't really love her, he's sending now negative vibrations inside of her. So you can only imagine what type of child the baby would be if the man